comments of a general nature not related to any specific item on the agenda. And barring that, we will move forward to the public hearings. We have two public hearings on land use applications scheduled tonight.
I'll start over.
Sure, let's rock.
Two public hearings on land use applications are scheduled tonight. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each applicant's proposal. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. The quasi-judicial hearing procedure that the commission will follow is set out in state law and in the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure and steps are shown in the chart on the wall for your entertainment. Anyone wishing to speak should fill out a speaker's card and give it to the planning staff before the hearing. Speakers will proceed in the order in which their card is received. You should fill out your address on the card so the city will notify you of its final decision. For the public record, please begin all testimony with your name. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. A person may submit any written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the public record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends for PowerPoint presentations, oversized poster boards, reports, pictures, or other exhibits to be used in their oral testimony to be placed in the record, copies must be submitted to the city staff while the record is open. If they're not given to staff, they will not be included in the public record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the hearing is closed. If the Historic Review Board makes a decision with which you disagree, any issue that you may wish to appeal must have been raised for the consideration of the City Commission or LUBA or both, without raising the issue on the record with sufficient specificity and accompanied by statements or evidence that the state and all parties can respond, the issue will not be deemed appealable to the State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow local government or its designees to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. And I may never have to read that again. So we will now open the record for Oregon City file number PC 19-065, GLUA 19-00018, addition of a roof over a rear deck on a historic structure in the McLaughlin Conservation District at 1109 Monroe Street. Does any commissioner have any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias, or any other statements to declare?
No.
No.
And I do not either. I will say for the record, however, that I am a licensed real estate broker, and in that capacity, I assist buyers and sellers of residential property throughout the area, including some in the Kenema and McLaughlin districts. The property under review is not for sale, and as a result, there is no actual conflict of interest. While I do have expertise in the market values in this area, any decision I make will be based exclusively on the applicable approval criteria. Have the commissioners visited the site?
Twice.
Yes.
And I have also. So we can now commence with the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Basinger. My name is Kelly Reed, planner with City of Oregon City, presenting my staff report on HR 1902, a proposed deck on a designated structure within the McLaughlin Conservation District. The address of this property is 1109 Monroe Street. This is the LD Garmine House. The property is about 7,000 square feet. It is on an alley, as well as fronting Monroe Street. Has a secondary unit, accessory unit on the backside that was moved to the property apparently long ago and may have historic status on its own, but that's not the subject of this application. The house has this is after it was painted, yeah. Sorry, we have before and afters with a paint job that was done recently. So the house has an existing deck on the back that you see there, and then there's the staircase that's on the right side exists as well, and the deck kind of wraps around the other side of the house. What the applicant is proposing to do is a project that has two phases. First phase is to remove and replace the deck, with the replacement actually connecting around the side of the house toward that staircase, and eliminating the other part of the deck that wraps around the house. So the replacement deck would have almost the same footprint as the existing, with some exceptions. And the phase 2 of the project is to add a roof over the deck that extends out from the existing rear shed roof there. The deck replacement itself could be approved at a staff level, and we have authorized them to start work on that. So the existing deck has been removed, and I believe they are starting on the deck replacement. However, the application also includes a request to use composite decking, so that they're kind of waiting on the answer to that question tonight before they move forward with the actual decking portion of the project. So we have some drawings here showing a gable roof covering, extending out from that existing shed roof. It would be a 612 pitch. All the materials proposed are wood and with single cedar shingles on the front gable end. The proposed composite decking would be a gray color to match the house. I think I actually have a question related to the composite decking. So it wasn't clear to me whether the railing of the deck would also be part of that. So maybe when I'm done, the applicant can come and address what the railing material would be. Overall, the materials proposed and the character of the proposed roof is within keeping of the character of the home. The materials are compatible. This is a secondary element on the rear of the structure, and it would not affect the historic character of the property. Additionally, the part of the house that this is being attached to is not the original volume. That was a later addition. It was probably added in the 50s, we think. So I would just recommend a couple of conditions of approval, that no pressure-treated wood would be visible, that the railings have a top and bottom rail with balusters attached within the railing, and then potentially based on the applicant's presentation, adding a condition regarding the railing material. I recommend approving the use of the composite decking based on the upcoming HRB policy changes that would allow composite decking on the rear, on rear decks. So based on that, I would recommend approval. And that's all I have on that staff report.
Okay, thank you. Are the applicants present?
Yes.
And do you have anything you want to add to what staff has said? Please.
Hi, my name is Mark Litsky,
You can come up too if you.
property owner. Us in the bank, of course. To answer your question, the proposed decking is fir for the railing and the vertical rails. Bottom rails is all fir. There's no composite. The composite was only on the lower deck.
I think the microphone will be able to pick you up better if you just take a seat, and then maybe you'll be more comfortable.
Okay.
I know we
This better?
have an effect.
You have to record everything.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Mark Litsky, and owner of the house, and my wife, Cheryl, and hopefully I backed up far enough. The question to answer for Kelly is that the decking we're requesting is a composite decking for the floor only, and the railing is planned to be, on the design is wood, it's fir, for the railing, both vertical and horizontal supports for the railing. And of course, up to code, so it doesn't allow little heads to get through. And so, that was the only comment I had, unless somebody had a question for me to answer.
Well, a question just for clarification's sake. Am I correct in understanding that you're removing the shed roof from the rear addition to replace it with the gable roof? Yeah.
The gable roof will be integrated into the shed roof.
Okay.
If you,
Hi.
sorry, you probably can't see my clicker. If I use the mouse, you can see. So this view kind of shows looking at that side stair, I think. And so this
Yeah,
shed
so it's
roof,
there, yeah.
is still here, and then the new roof comes out from it. And then this drawing kind of shows, this is a roof plan. So you can see the existing shed roof, and then the new roof has the horizontal lines here.
Okay.
He promised me he's done that hundreds of times before.
I'll bet he has.
They put little shed roofs everywhere that needed it.
Any other questions?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, if, we've hardly beat up on you at all. I feel
Thank
we're
you.
slipping.
Oh, jeez, you make us sound like we're horrible.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Very
hearing
good,
us.
thank you. Denise, are you going to submit a card? Okay.
She's gonna help us out.
Well, they submitted.
Thank you for that.
They submitted-
Okay.
They submitted a thing in writing, MMA.
Yes. Okay. If there's no further public testimony, we'll end the public testimony portion and move to discussion or deliberation. Board members, speak.
I don't really have,
Just reading the comment
Problem.
letter from the neighborhood association at the moment.
well, about the bullnose. Bullnose on the stairs, which I think is a good suggestion.
Yeah.
But is that within our?
Yeah.
We could
Got that.
recommend it. But they don't have to do it, I don't think, do they?
Yeah, the
That-
board could choose to, recommend it or just leave the McLaughlin, you let the McLaughlin comment speak for itself. Instead of making it a condition of approval, if you will.
And maybe they didn't know that was available, but it might be a good suggestion.
So the staff conditions of approval stated here, there they are pretty standard, and it answers, or the question of material has been answered. Would we want to add then a additional condition regarding the bullnose feature?
I think making it a recommendation is fine. It doesn't-
Yeah.
Recommendation?
Yeah, because I don't think it affects it one way or the other, but I think it's
True.
a good suggestion. So, I move we approve HR 19-02 as presented in the staff report.
Second.
All right.
My microphone fell apart.
I know.
If you'll poll the members.
Board Member Blythe,
Aye.
Board Member Met.
Aye.
And Chair Basinger.
Aye. The HR 1902 is approved, and you may go forward with your project. Next item on the agenda is HR 18-10, proposed fence at the James
Excuse me.
Manning House. Pardon?
It's very hard to hear, and my
Oh.
brother is nearly deaf, and so he has not been hearing anything that you've been talking, and now that you're going to come to ours, could you speak?
I'll try to,
seemingly louder?
Speak louder.
They do have some aid things, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause he has not heard any, even your opening where you talked about what to do and what to, he couldn't hear any of that.
Do you know what those are?
Oh, there they go.
Do you wanna use those? You get here?
Where do we?
Well, you will, but they're gonna be talking about it first, so.
So that's just what,
Yeah, I knew they had those, so
are we the only ones here? Do you mind if I move up there?
You may.
So, these, I think it's kind of quite loud right now, so maybe you can control the volume.
That was how I listened to
Somebody
it.
say test.
Okay,
Test,
Tess,
test.
can you hear what we're saying now?
Yes,
Good.
I can't hear myself, but I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to, the next item on the agenda is HR 18-10, proposed fence at the James Manning House, a locally designated historic site in the McLaughlin Conservation District. Have commissioners visited the site?
yes.
As have I.
Yes.
In fact, when I was driving by, I was going so slowly, there was two kids up the street looking, and they're like, there's that lady, like casing the place.
We will move forward with the staff report.
Sorry, can you, ask for the ex parte contacts part?
Oh, I can. I thought that applied already. Does any commissioner have any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias, or any other statement to declare?
No.
No.
Nor have I. All right. Now we'll
Okay,
have a staff
thank you.
report.
That's the one. Okay, this one, it has a 2018 file number because it was filed long ago, last year, and put on hold while we were discussing the HRB policies,
was wondering.
not knowing how that would end up. Now that we are close to the end of that process and we know what the recommended new policy is for chain link, it seemed appropriate to bring this forward now. So this is 811 Jefferson Street, the James Manning House. It's colonial home in the McLaughlin Conservation District. The fence is existing, and so it's a rear yard fence, chain link covered in a hedge material, like artificial hedge material. And so in the HRB policies, we refer to it as chain link hedge slats. I think that the products probably have different names, but this is what we meant by a chain link hedge slats when we were putting together the new policies. So the map here, I have labels just for ease of conversation later. So the fence is well behind the front facade of the home. It's about 50-ish feet from the property line, from the street, Jefferson Street. And then it just kind of follows the property line around the rear half of the property. The fence appears to be 6 feet tall, and then in this corner, it appears that it might be taller than 6 feet. At least the hedge portion of it appears to be sticking above the chain link fence. I'm not quite sure, but it looked like a little over 6 feet. And so I did take photos from the sidewalk, from the right-of-way to show what the view is. And I apologize for the lighting. I'm trying to get our lighting here to dim so the screen is better. But so this is the right side of the house. You can see some of the fence on the side of the house, between the side of the house and the property line. And then this is the left side where the garage is. About 7 or 8 feet of fence is visible there. This fence along the sides of the property doesn't appear to be really visible at all from any public area. On either side of the property, so this property here with the 4 addresses on the corner is a fourplex that is not a designated structure. 809 on the other side of the property is not a designated structure. 818 behind the property on John Adams Street is a designated structure. And so this photo, I believe, is from the yard of the house behind the subject property. So you can see the back of the fence, and it's sitting on a retaining wall because that property is considerably lower in elevation than the subject property. And then if you're on the right-of-way of John Adams, at the house behind the subject property, looking toward the back fence, it's hard to see in these photos, but it is minimally visible behind some vegetation. And then here it's hard to tell, but you can see a small portion of the fence from John Adams, if you look hard. So knowing that our fence policy, our HRB policies for fences and walls does not allow chain link in the rear yard or the front yard. Considering that the new policy also would not allow chain link at all, including the hedge slats, staff's recommendation is going to be based on those policies. The board, of course, has more discretion than staff, but my recommendation is kind of coming straight from those policies. And so the conditions of approval based on that are to place a screen of solid wood in front of or attached to the Jefferson Street facing sides of the fence. So that would be A. And then either place solid wood boards on the back of the fence facing the yard at 818 Jefferson, or replace the rear fence entirely with a fence that meets the HRB policies. And there's a list of different fencing that does meet the HRB policies. And this condition is referring to this back section labeled B. And if the HRB does want to keep those conditions of approval, I would recommend maybe allowing a period of time to come into compliance with those. And then the second condition would be to reduce the height of the fence if it in fact does exceed 6 feet, to make sure that that's trimmed down to be 6 feet. And I'm available for questions.
Okay. Would the applicants like to say anything here? Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Wade Owens and my sister Susan Owens, Susan Ager, excuse me. It's like trying to speak into a cavern. If you could put that outline back up there again, okay. I have one thing that you're not correct on. On the fence on our side yard with the fourplex there, that's not ours. That fence belongs to the back of the yards of that fourplex. We have a space of maybe at the very end where those two green lines come together now, that has maybe 5 feet where their chain link fence ended and we turned and came to it. Now, when you show the picture from the front, that's on the right-hand side, which is the north side, and you're talking about the chain link fence there, okay, what you're seeing is not the fence. Believe it or not, my father built a dog pen with a chain link fence around it in the 1960s when I was still in high school here. And this is how we found out about this material. My sister before we ever built the fence or even took the old fence out, she came up with this material and stuck it in that fence around that thing. And so just to show us what it would be like. And so that really isn't, when we built the fence that you're talking about it here, we started right down at the back corner of the north side, like I say, maybe 5 feet, had to turn a corner, and we had the guys that built the fence itself, the actual chain link part of it, put that in and just run it to where the other fence started that belongs to those people. So ours just has, I think it's 145 feet along the back and maybe 5 feet turn, and then it comes up to the side on the south side. And on that one, that part is part of what we built at that time. So, actually, the chain link fence is shorter than those things. My sister wanted to build up higher to hide it, to see what we could do with it. So it's sitting on some airplane wire. We put a L bracket up on the chain link fence and raised it and ran some airplane wire through it so Susan could weave this stuff into it to hide to hide the people next door a little better, I guess.
Well, we were having people come into our yard and going back where we kept our, like yard tools and so forth, and we were having a problem with them coming in and just helping themselves. And then we were also, in that area, we also have a lot of animals. There's a lot of skunks in the area. And so and other critters. And so we were trying to keep the critters out of our yard. Last thing you want is skunks. But we were having trouble with adults and other people coming in and just helping themselves to our stuff.
I just thought I'd start with changing the record on that.
The
But
staff,
anyway,
excuse me a second,
we
the
decided-
staff report was unclear as to the height of the fence.
Well, she was saying it was, and you can see that the height there is quite a bit. If you go from that side to the other side, you'll see that the height is quite different. And we added about that far with these struts that came up. And
Is that over and above a 6-foot height?
yeah, at the time
The dog pen.
of the dog pen, but this isn't a fence. I don't know if the same thing applies to the dog pen or not. But the dog pen edges of the chain link material that my dad put in the 1960s is still there, as he wanted to.
And that's less than 6 foot.
So,
And the fence that we put up around is only 5 foot, all the way around. It doesn't go out, and the hedge material does not exceed the top rail of the, because we
Yeah,
folded it over to hide it.
It truly is a little bit shorter than 6 feet because
Oh,
I
so
can see
higher.
over the top of it and I'm only 5. I used to be 6 foot, but I'm only 5'9" now. So,
Okay, that
Anyway.
clarifies it a lot.
In
Thank you.
in the card that we filled out originally and sent in on a thing, it asked why we chose this material. I'm a retired contractor. My brother is, as I said. Over the years, we probably replaced the wood fence my dad had on there 4 or 5 times. We've owned this house for 65 years. And all the wood fence, I don't care what the pressure treated posts, the wood in the railings, they kept rotting out. It was almost impossible to get paint on the things because, partly because of the style my dad bought, but partly just because there's no place in the back. There's about this much room before you go over a 10-foot cling, and there's just no way to get back there to do anything. And at 70 or 75, I didn't want to do that anymore. And I'm the one living there now, and the 4 of us own it together. And it's still the center of our family in this area. We have a large extended family in this area. All of us graduated from Oregon City High School and Portland State College, and went on from there to do other things. But we try to be good neighbors and good, someone keeping that for someone else in the future generations. We want to keep it that way. But I decided, and my brother agreed with me, that we would use a chain link fence because they're ugly as hell, but there is no better fence at keeping things out and keeping things in. And also, they're very low maintenance. And once Susan came up and showed us these things, we said, hey, that's a way we can disguise the ugliness, so it wouldn't be ugly. And I thought that stuff did a very good job. We spent about $10,000 in that fence, the new one going in, after we spent a lot of time and effort. My brother had taken out the latest dry rotted fence that was in here, and getting rid of it. And then we went and turned around and spent $3,000 more on this material to put in to make the fence disappear. We could make the top rail disappear, we could make the post disappear. And believe me, besides the cost of that thing, I put almost all that stuff in on the back and on the south side. I was moving at 1 foot an hour to put these stuff. These are not easy to put in, and if I wanted them to actually work, you had to fluff them out so that all these little things that are involved in it would help hide the things. There's a huge difference between the fence that the people next door to us on the north side, where you can stand back, because they have this actual slats in them. You see them all the time, the plastic. You can stand back across the street and look into our backyard and see through the people standing back there and doing it. So there's no privacy with that thing. But when we get our part, you can see. You can see light coming through to a certain extent, but you can't really see people back through there, so it is private. So it not only is a very sturdy fence that requires very little maintenance, but I thought we did a pretty good job of getting rid of the one really bad thing about chain link fences, and that's their appearance.
Well, there's
And-
2 really bad things about.
I'm sorry?
There are 2 really bad things about chain
I'm
link
gonna put this
fence.
back on that.
You were saying the really bad thing about chain link fence is that it doesn't look good. That's one bad thing about it.
Right.
The other bad thing about it is that it doesn't conform with Oregon City code.
Okay, I understand that.